He's part of the fantastic but draining Super Six. He entered the Super Six as the unbeaten WBC Super Middleweight champion, and he now meets in his third Super Six fight Arthur Abrahams in what is, without doubt, the best fight so far in the fantastic tournament. There's been a lot of talk about venues, and then the fight was set for October the 2nd, which was this weekend in Monaco. That fell through. And now it's been rescheduled for Helsinki on November 27th, one of my favourite cities, Helsinki. It's still the best fight so far, and it's a delight to welcome Carl Froch back to the show. Good evening, Carl.
Evening, Steve.
Yeah, first of all, Carl, how's the injury holding up?
Yeah, it's very well, thank you. Obviously, it was too close and too bad, too close to the fight. So I didn't want to miss out on 2 weeks of vital sparring and vital training. As you know, you sharpen up towards the fight. So if I'd have missed them 2 weeks before, I mean, I'd have been boxing Saturday. It would have been too much of a giveaway. So I did the right thing. And pulled out, and it's been rescheduled for 27th of November, as you've just said. In
Helsinki, and Helsinki is a very easy place to get to. There's a lot of, East Midlands, Birmingham, Manchester. I mean, all of those can get up to or close to it, and it's a great city.
Yeah, I've been to Finland. I think I went to, is it Tampere? Or
yeah, Tampere. That's for the big tournament.
I was in the Tampere tournament as an amateur. Yeah, I boxed Denny Finkin actually in that one.
Did you?
Yeah, I lost out on points 7 years ago, and then nearly got the rematch for the title.
Of course, yeah. He was floating around forever with that European belt, wasn't he?
He was. Yeah, I watched Audley get a beating out there, and a few other lads. In this tournament,
it was always a tough tournament because Finland was really on. You know what was interesting during the before the Soviet bloc ended, Carl, and before that, when there was only just the Soviet Union, when there wasn't Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, in Finland there were two different boxing organisations. There was the one in the south, and then there's the one in the north, and the one in the north was basically run on the Soviet system, and some of their fighters even fought for the Soviet bloc. So that's why the Tampa tournament, that was always one of the hardest tournaments out there. Right, Carl, you're getting in with Arthur Abrahams. I thought it was going to be given the WBC vacant title tag, but instead that's been added to the Dirrell and Ward fight. Were you a bit surprised by that?
Yeah, strangely enough. I mean, it's been added to that one, but it is what it is. It's still wrapped up in the tournament. So from that point of view, as long as I do the job with Abraham I know I can do, then I'm still going to get the chance at the WBC. The main disappointing thing for me, as you know, is Kessler pulling out, because that's the fight I wanted to sort of redeem myself, if you like, for that loss on my record. I know in a rematch there's only going to be one winner, but that aside, the question you asked was I shocked? I was, because I should be ranked above Dirrell because I beat Dirrell.
Of course.
And this fight you'd have thought would have made sense for me and Abraham, such a big fight, to be for the WBC, and then Ward and Dirrell be fighting for the WBA, and then at one stage in the final the belts are going to collide. Hopefully with me and Ward, potentially me and Dirrell.
I mean, it was just sort of simple. I couldn't even. I can't even see why they wouldn't have done it. I can't. It doesn't make any sense to me.
What's happened is it's just purely because Andre Dirrell is somehow ranked one above me with the WBC. So why ever he's ranked above me, I don't know, but he is, and that's the reason.
That's just one of those bizarre things, isn't it? Eh? So, and the other thing that's I found a bit surprising, there was all talk that perhaps your fight with Arthur Abrahams and the Ward at the two Andres meeting would become instant sort of semi-finals going through to a final. But the Showtime have decided to keep the Super Six pattern together, and they've and obviously Alan Green's one of the guys that came in, stepped in for Jermaine Jackson. Sorry, not Jermaine Jackson, Jermaine Taylor, excuse me, a bit of a Michael Jackson slip there. And they've brought in Glenn Johnson, former light heavyweight champion. Now, I tell you what, if Johnson can make the weight, he's a handful.
All right, that's news to me.
Well, you don't know that? Yeah, Glenn Johnson. You know the guy that
is that the one? Is that definite?
Yeah. That was officially announced a few hours ago. Yeah, Glenn Goff Johnson.
Oh bloody hell! I didn't know that. Well, and that shocked me. That as I knew that this fight was going to be group stage 3. So
yeah.
Me and Abraham, and then Dirrell and Ward group stage 3, which means there's got to be another fight. So that's going to be, I presume, Alan Green and
Glenn Johnson. Yeah, I mean, because that's a tough old fight, because
I fancy Johnson in that one.
So do I.
Yeah.
And I fancy Johnson in that one. How does it work then? If he wins, I mean, and say you end up drawing points with him, if the worst thing happened, I mean, that's something to think about. No, maybe not tonight. Arthur Abrahams. Let's talk about him. People, do you think people make too much about how awkward he is, Carl?
I do, yeah. They say he's awkward, and they also say, oh, he's such a big puncher, and they make a big deal about it. So the way I'm looking at it is he's had 2 fights at super middleweight. He's won 1 and he's lost 1, and he wasn't overly impressive against Taylor until he flattened him in the last round.
Absolutely.
So you've got to say it was an impressive finish.
Yeah,
but
of course.
For 11 rounds, 12 rounds, he was being out-jabbed and outworked, and obviously he was winning on scorecards because we know what happens in Germany.
Absolutely.
But other than that, I'm not getting involved in the hype, and that's not just because I'm going to fight him. It's just because I know what I've seen, and I know boxing. At middleweight, he was a formidable force. He's a puncher. He means business. At super middleweight, he's obviously still a world-class, elite-level fighter, and he deserves respect. But after Durrell absolutely punched holes in him for 10 rounds, and outclassed him, then, you know, I'm not going to get too excited about how great he is and worry about it. I'm just going to make sure I'm in 100% fit shape, get out there in time. Hopefully there's no volcanic ash, and I'll go out there and do a job on him.
Yeah, let's hope it works that way. Now, I don't know if you watched last week James DeGale. You know, you met James with me up in Nottingham, and you found out he's not a bad fellow, if I'm not mistaken. Nice enough kid. And he's got a bit of a slanging match. You've never really been one for big slanging matches. You got a little bit of a thing going with Tony Dodson a couple of years ago, didn't you? Or that was mainly Dodson getting something going with you.
Yeah, he pulled out 2 or 3 times, so I give him a bit of stick. Maybe I was out of order because he had a car crash and had a bad back, but that was all water under the bridge. Other than that, no, I just want to get the fights on. When I've mentioned Kawasaki in the past, it's because I genuinely want the fight.
Yeah, I know that, yeah. No, I'm just wondering, because obviously DeGale and George Groves have been slinging punches. Now you've never sparred with DeGale. You've been in the ring and watched him up close, shadow boxing, but you have sparred with George Groves, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
And you rate Groves, if I'm not mistaken, Carl. Is that right?
Yeah, Groves is a good fighter. He knows his way around the ring very well. He's got this attitude. He's probably got the David Hay attitude, where mentally he wants to win. He's switched on. He's not clumsy. He knows what he's doing, and on top of that, he can punch.
Yeah, he's heavy-handed, isn't he?
And he's tough. Yeah, he's tough. So he's a difficult fight for anybody. And I think DeGale, I'm not sure. I don't think DeGale quite fancies it, but that's my opinion. DeGale might fancy it, but I don't think he does, or the fight would happen. I know for a fact George Groves wants to fight because I've spoke to him and I know what his attitude's like. Sure. He'd jump in there with me, Groves would.
Oh, no, he would, yeah.
He wants to fight. It's as simple as that.
Do you look, when you look at guys like Groves and DeGale, do you think about them in 18 months, 2 years, 2.5 years? Do you think that way?
I would have done usually, but with the Super 6 format and the fact that I'm tied up with that, and I'm happy to be tied up with it because it's world-class elite level fighting at top level. Other than that, I can't really look past that because I've got to beat Abraham, then I'm in the semis, then the final, so it would be 18 months to 2 years, and who knows, I might go up to light heavyweight and fight Pascal, but I just wish these kids all the best. It's great for British boxing.
It is, yeah.
Super middleweight division's red hot at the minute with these sort of kids coming through, and best of luck to all of them. But I think that's a good fight that should happen, Groves DeGale. I think people get excited about that, if I'm honest, when I talk about it.
Well, let me tell you something. If that's happening and you're not training, you're going to that fight, aren't you?
I'm there, yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah, I know so. Listen, Carl, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for your time this evening, and I'll see you hopefully in Helsinki.
Yeah, brilliant. Always a pleasure, Steve. Take care.
Thank you. Carl Froch there. This fight's been moved back again to Helsinki on November 27th, and it'll be a serious event. Brendan Galbraith from Northern Ireland, by the way, wanted to know a little bit about that DeGale and the DeGale and Grove situation. I hope he answered your question there, Brendan. And Joe Neal has sent me in an email. He said, "Hey Budsy, what do you think of Showtime taking Glenn Johnson to replace Kessler in the Super 6 to fight Alan Green?" Well, I'll tell you what I think of it, Joe. I think like Carl was saying, I think it's great. And I swear to you, before the Super 6 started, I talked on various places where I managed to get a few quid and work. I said, this tournament needs a strong guy. It needs a Sakio Bika. I wasn't thinking about Glenn Johnson because at the time he was still competing at top level at light heavyweight. But it needed a guy that wasn't going to fold or get an injury. It needed an indestructible hard man. So it's found one. It's finally found one. And Doug